Thank you so much, Eric and the National Alliance, for this great honor. And congratulations for yet another awesome National Charter Schools Conference. I am so grateful for the support that I have received over the past nearly 12 years from my team at the National Alliance, from all of our funders, from all the lawmakers who stood in our corner, but most of all, to all of you for showing up with energy and passion for your students every single day, for your schools, and for this movement. Of course, I owe everything to my parents, who made great sacrifices to move us to the United States when I was a teenager. My mom is here today. Thank you, Mom. She told me I could step from my role at the National Alliance so long as she could keep coming to the conferences. So hope you'll get invited in the future, Mom. My daughter Sophia is not here with us today, but I get most of my inspiration from being a mom myself. It is truly such a privilege to be standing on this stage next to some of the individuals who, quite frankly, mentored and taught me everything that I know about the school choice and charter school movement. Dr. Howard Fuller, Dr. Checker Finn, Lisa Graham Keegan, to name a few. But as much as I appreciate being in such great, esteemed company, you guys should know that I have never really enjoyed being honored. I get flashbacks to an awards ceremony in high school. As many of you know, when we moved to the United States, we moved to a small town in Southwest Virginia with one high school. And while I spoke some English, I wasn't exactly fluent. And I also didn't understand the thick Southern accent of my teachers. I had attended a French language immersion school back in Iran, so I signed up for an AP French class. This was one of the few classes where I could converse, show off my academic prowess, and probably annoy a lot of my peers. At the end of senior year, my French teacher, Mrs. Campbell, decided to give me an award before the entire school. It was one of the many ways that she tried to boost my confidence. But for me, as a young kid who didn't want to bring too much attention to her immigrant heritage, that experience was simply mortifying. Yet today, the only two adults whose names I remember from my high school are that of Mrs. Campbell, the French teacher who went on to help me with my application and to eventually go to college, and Mrs. Darmamuth, my guidance counselor, who pretty much said I was not college material. We all have stories of why we are in the charter school movement. For me, one of the key reasons I have loved being in this movement for so long is because that it is comprised of the Mrs. Campbells of the world, all of you. And I have loved my work on charter schools since I started working on them at the US Department of Education about 20 years ago. Charter schools are one of the only mechanisms to expand access to greater educational options for all kids. So when I went to the US Department of Education, that is sort of one of the things that I learned very quickly. When I came to the National Alliance in 2012, we set out to expand the amount of money that was available at the federal level through a program called the Charter Schools Program, so that we could give successful charter schools more funding to replicate and expand, and to also give funding to newcomers to continue to push us to innovate. We grew that program from $254 million in funding, in annual funding in 2012, to $440 million in annual funding by 2019. And we have kept those dollar amounts at that level ever since, and hopefully, Starlee, you can grow it even further. But the other thing we set out to do was, quite frankly, to improve the quality of our state laws. Charter school laws are created at the state level. Every state has created a charter school law for very specific and unique reasons, and every community wants a charter school for very specific reasons. And I started at the National Alliance just as the charter school movement was reaching its 20th anniversary. We had 2.3 million students attending about 5,600 charter schools. We are now serving 4 million students in over 8,000 charter schools. And nearly half of those schools received funding from the Charter Schools Program, which is the program that our team at the National Alliance fights so hard to protect and to grow. But even more importantly, the quality of our sector over the past decade has dramatically improved thanks to you, but also because of the strength of the laws that we helped enact. To the point where Stanford University's Mackie Raymond calls charter schools the only story in US public education where we've been able to create a set of conditions where schools do actually get better. That's a pretty big deal coming from her. It is the dedication of leaders like you that keeps this movement going and keeps this movement growing. That can-do attitude that questions conventional wisdom, that challenges the soft bigotry of low expectations and proves that all kids can learn and that the achievement gap can be closed. And so today, I want to remind you of the power that you have in shaping not just the future of your students and your schools, but also the future of this movement. You can do this by constantly pushing back against rules that don't make sense, by continuously putting children front and center, and by drawing inspiration from the stories of those who helped shape this movement, many of whom stood on this very stage to be inducted into the Charter Schools Hall of Fame. I am honored to be standing next to them today, and I will always stand with you as we fight for our students. Thank you.